Former Sheriff Tim Helder from Washington County is joining us today. Sheriff, you are in retirement now, but you're still an expert on jail expansion and criminal justice reform. So we want to get your take on what this organization, Decarcerate Arkansas, is saying. They're basically saying that instead of more beds, we need other types of reform. But we know in Washington County, you as a former sheriff and a lot of people are saying that, no, we need more beds in Arkansas, whether it's jail or prisons.
Well, it's the same, I'm going to use the term rhetoric that we've been hearing for a while. Obviously, my mandate as sheriff was a constitutional mandate, and that was to, three things, was to keep care of the courts, the law enforcement into things, and then, of course, running a jail. And what we haven't seen over the 18 years I was sheriff and the 43 in law enforcement is a real backing up of criminal activity. And the continual talk of these type groups is that, well, people are generally good. They've just made a bad decision. And if we can, you know, give them this, give them that, educate here and there, then we're going to have a much better society, and they're going to turn it around. Well, I'm also in favor of rehabilitation, reentry programs, and things of that nature. But the truth of the matter is the majority do not rehabilitate. In fact, the majority of people that are in our county jails and our prisons are reoffenders. And so to just randomly throw that information out and to tell us that that will work when we know, in fact, it will only work for a small percentage of people, I think is ludicrous. And I think that we're on the right track right now. We've got a governor that is at least verbally behind additional beds in our prisons. We've got a attorney general that is even more adamant about it. I think the latest that I heard from him or his office was that he believes we need an additional 5,000 prison beds. The governor is around 3,000 to 3,500. So there's no backup in me. I still believe we need the beds, and we've got to get some relief for our county sheriffs across the state.
Now, Sheriff, one of the ideas that you threw around while you were sheriff was that maybe we need a state facility located in Northwest Arkansas area, like a regional regional corrections facility. So right. One of the lawmakers that I asked about, he said that we're not going to be able to get the staffing needed for that because people in Northwest Arkansas, part of the state, do not want to work at a correctional facility. Is that true? Is that something that would be a problem if we were to have a regional facility?
Well, I don't think it's a unique problem to our area. I think that coming out of COVID, I think most industries are finding it difficult to find employment or employees to help run their businesses. That's not lost on law enforcement. It's not just in detention centers, but law enforcement overall. But I'm not aware of any great push in eastern Arkansas, southern Arkansas, where people are just knocking down the doors to come to work. I still believe that it's the responsible thing to do is to have a regional type facility. If it's not, even if it's not a prison, 500 beds or something, how about one of these regional facilities for our 90-day parole violators so that they can serve their mandates locally instead of us having to transport them all over the state? I still believe that's right. And I don't know, the comments from our legislators seem to be what you just said, but I hope it's that and not just the attitude of not in my backyard, because I think that we all have a responsibility, especially Northwest Arkansas, when we look at the number of people that we are sending to state prisons. I think that we're leading the state in that area.
All right. Former Sheriff of Washington County, Tim Helder, thank you so much for joining us. You still are the expert for criminal justice reform and when we're talking about jails and expansion. Thanks so much, Sheriff.